Hey dear soulmate, you're welcome to today's tutorial on bending soles. My name is Benedicta, and today we're going to be making this V-shaped bell sleeves crop top you see right here. And so guys, to make this style, I'll be making use of this fabric. So to make this fabric, we'll be needing at least 1.5 to 2 yards of fabric depending on your size actually. So here I've gone ahead to cut out what I need for this fabric, and I'm going to be cutting the front and the back together. That's why I have that 4 folds there. And here is my lining piece for the main bodice. So because of the fact that my chalk will not be very obvious on the main fabric, I decided to make my markings on the lining piece. So first off, I aligned the lining piece on the main fabric, and I went ahead to pin it. So the next thing we're going to be doing right here is to mark out our shoulder line first off. So afterwards we're going to be marking out other measurements. So after that, I'm going to be marking the length of my top. So here I'm making use of 17, so you measure yours and mark, and I went ahead to add 1 inch for sewing allowance. So I moved inward and I marked same thing right there. So using my ruler, I'm going to be marking out those lines you see there. That is the full length of the top, and then the sewing allowance. So the next thing we're going to be doing right here is to mark out our necklines. Okay, so for the neck depth, I'm making use of 3.5 inch, that is 3.5 inch neck depth, and the neck width of 3 inches. Okay, so since I'm cutting both the front and the back together, I'll go ahead to mark out the neck depth for the back, which is 1.5 inch, and I'm going to make a curve to connect the neck depth and the neck width of both the front and the back necklines. So next thing I'm going to marking right here is my shoulder width. So the shoulder I'm working with is 14.5, and 14.5 divided by 2 is 7.25. And then from that shoulder line, I'm going to be coming down by 1 inch, which is going to be 7 as a shoulder slope. And then I'm going to connect that 1 inch line to the neck width that we've marked earlier on. So next thing I'm marking right here is my bust point. So the bust point I'm making use of is 9 inches. That is from the shoulder line. I'll mark 9 inches downwards, which is our bust point. So right there, I've gone ahead to mark my bust point. So from my neck shoulder slope, I'll be marking out my armhole. So to get your armhole, we're going to be dividing our bust divided by 6 plus 1.5. So after I did that, I had 7.5, which I marked there. Remember, from the 1 inch shoulder slope that we came down from. And then I'm going to mark a shoulder measurements there to make sure we have a straight line. So I'm going to connect this to the shoulder line. So here we're done with it. So to get our armhole curve rather, I'll be marking out my bust circumference divided by 4 first off, and bust circumference I'm working with is 37 divided by 4. I have 9.25, so I've gone ahead to mark it there. So to get the midpoint of our armhole, I'm going to measure what I have there and divide it by 2, and then I'm going to mark. So from that mark, I'm going to come in by 1/2 inch. You can do 0.75, can do 1/2 inch. So, but for the sake of this tutorial, I'm going to make use of 1/2 inch. So using my curve drill, I'm going to first off mark from the shoulder slope to that point, and then find a connecting curve from that midpoint to the bust measurements that were marked out earlier. So here I'm done marking it out. So the next thing we're going to be doing right now is to replicate the measurements that we have at our armhole, bust point rather, at the hem of the top. And then I went ahead to add 1.5 inch sewing allowance there. So using my long rule, I'm going to connect the lines right there. So guys, if you're new on our YouTube channel, do hit the subscribe button, like and share our videos. So guys, the next thing I'm going to be doing right now is to add my sewing allowance, 1/2 inch sewing allowance as the shoulder area, and then I'm going to use my ruler to mark it out. So basically we're almost done with it. So we'll move over to the hem of the top. So from that part there, I'm going to be coming in by 1/2 inch just to give it a bit closure, so I don't have it all open at the full length there. And I'm going to connect it right back to the bust point area at the armhole area, and basically we are done with this. So I'm going to be cutting this out. So first off, I'm going to be cutting out the back neckline, which is the 1.5 inch neck depth that we marked earlier, like so. And so guys, thank you for always watching our videos, and if you're new on our channel, welcome you, and then hit the subscribe button, like, share, and drop a comment. Okay, we really appreciate your comments. So here I'm done cutting it out. So the next thing I'm going to do is to fold in one piece of the main fabric and one piece of the lining fabric, so we can cut out the front neckline. So I picked one of the main fabric and then the the lining piece also, and I'm going to cut out the front neckline like so. So voila, we're done with the cutting of the main borders. Okay, so right here guys, I'm going to align this, and then the next thing we're going to be doing is to reduce our lining piece. Okay, because we want it to fold inward. We want our main fabric to actually fold inward. So we're going to be reducing it by 1 inch. Remember, we left 1 inch sewing allowance, so I'm going to reduce it by 1 inch. Then we'll sew 1/2 inch and fold it in. So I'll show you what it will look like later on as we move on in this tutorial. So guys, I've gone ahead to reduce it, and then I'm going to place the back, because we're going to be having a button at the back of this. So what I did was that I'm going to make a curve at the back of my back piece. Okay, so if you measure it, I have 4 inches right there. So I went down by 4 inches, and I went ahead to make a little curve connecting to the neckline there. So I'm going to trim it out, and then at that particular part we're going to be having our buttons. Okay, so the neckline will actually pass through the head of pass through my head actually. So I went ahead to adjust it, and here we are done with the cutting of the main borders. Okay, so this is what we have. This is the back piece. I'm going to slit that open. This is the back piece, and then the front piece also. So this elastic, we're going to be using it to make casing for our button, where our button is going to sit. So here we're going to, so next thing we're doing right here is to cut out our sleeve. Okay, so I've gone ahead to mark out a line, a starting point there, and then next thing I'm going to be doing right now is to mark our sleeve measurement, which is sleeve length, which is 24, and I went ahead to add 1 inch sewing allowance to it. So 24 and then 1 inch sewing allowance. So I'm going to use my straight ruler to actually mark a straight line at the hem right there. Okay, so to know the amount of fabric you're going to be putting on fold, it depends, okay, on your armhole plus 2 to 3 inches extra. So the next thing I'm going to add now is to mark my arm side, and to get your arm side or bicep is to divide bust by 12 plus 1 inch or half inch. So what I'm using right here is 4 inches, which is my arms high depth. So from there, I'm going to mark in my armhole. So remember I made use of 7.5-inch armhole, and I went ahead to add 1 inch for sewing allowance. So from there, I'm going to connect it to the tip of folded edge at the beginning of that point where we marked our shoulder point, and I'm going to divide it into whatever I have there. I'm going to mark it. Okay, so making a curve from the beginning of our center piece, connecting to the midpoint where we marked, and then coming down and making a curve to the armhole area where we marked our armhole measurement. Okay, like so. So guys, if you really don't understand this sleeve drafting, I have a video up for it, how to draft a basic sleeve. So I think you understand that better. So what I have on my armhole, I replicated it on my sleeve length, and then I added 2 inches there. Okay, I went ahead to add it. Remember, it's not fitted, it's a bit wide. So that's why we have this like a V, and then I'm going to connect it to my armhole like so. So for us to get our V-shaped sleeve, we're going to be from the sleeve length, we're going to be coming up by 1 inch, 1.5, or maximum 2. Okay, so but here I did 1.5, and I'm going to connect it back to the sleeve length there like so. So here is what we have. I've gone ahead to connect it, and then I'm going to add sewing allowance, 1 inch allowance that we added earlier when we are marking out the basic sleeve pattern, and I'm going to connect it back. So basically we're done with the drafting of our sleeve, so I'm going to go ahead to cut this out. So guys, I'm done cutting out my sleeve, so I'm going to be using this to cut out the second sleeve. So moving over to the sewing of our crop top, I brought the back piece, and first thing I'm going to do is to place the lining piece at the front of the fabric, and I'm going to sew it at that full length area. So I went ahead to sew the length, and then next I'm going to be doing right now is to sew the necklines and then the side. So I'm going ahead to pin it, and then I'm making some adjustments, placing it in order, and I'm pinning it right there. I'm also going to pin it to the other side. So what we're going to do basically is to sew the neckline. Okay, sew the neckline, and also sew the sides. So same thing we did for the back, we're going to be doing it for the same thing we did for the front, we're going to be doing it for the back. Then for the back, I'll be placing my elastic, the elastic I showed you earlier. We're going to be placing it into it like so. Make a fold and place it into it. So I've gone ahead to sew the necklines, and I've gone ahead to sew the sides. Okay, so I'm going to be flipping this open for us to see what it looks like. So this is what we have after flipping it. This is the back piece, and this is our elastic casing that we did, and that is the front piece. So that is the reason, see the hemline, and that is the reason why we reduce our um lining piece. So next thing we're going to be doing right now is to join the shoulders of the front and the back piece. So I went ahead to pin it first of all. You can do this without pinning it actually, but for me to have not so that it doesn't move around, I had to pin it, and then pin the other side too. Okay, so this is what we have, and I'm going to go over to the sewing machine, and I'm going to sew it straight. Okay, I'm going to sew it like so. I'll sew the two sides, and I'm going to come back to show you what we have. I'll sew these two sides, and then um sew the sides too. So here I'm done sewing the shoulder and the sides of the crop top, and this is what we have. So moving over to the sleeve, first thing we're going to do for the sleeve is to hem the full length, that is the length of the sleeve, and then folding. So next, see, this is what we have after joining the sleeves. Okay, so this is what we have. This is our crop top, and I've gone ahead to add the buttons also. So here I made a skirt earlier for it. So for the skirt, we have a video up for how to sew a pencil skirt. So with this, we'll come to the end of this tutorial. So guys, thank you for watching to the very end. Really appreciate. If you're new on our YouTube channel, please do hit the subscribe button, and we shall see you in our next tutorial. Bye.